Hi, this is Kiana Miner. Welcome to Crazy Courage TV, where we are busting success myths and learning to live more courageously. Today, we're going to have an awesome conversation. We are talking to Leo Babada. Leo is the writer and creator of ZenHabits.net, which is an awesome blog that I know I've been following since 2009. And the blog it has 1 million monthly readers. It's one of the top 25 blogs and top 50 websites in the world. So an amazing piece of work that he's created. So welcome, Leo. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So just so that I can get to know you a little better and the audience can get to know you, can you share with us one of your most courageous moments?
Sure. I actually have several kind of related ones.
Okay.
And they all have to do with putting myself out there in the public.
Okay.
One of the scariest things for me. But probably the biggest one was you mentioned my blogs and habits, and I actually started in 2007 after a year of changing my life, getting out of debt and quitting smoking and all that stuff. But so I was really excited to share everything that I've been learning. And so at the beginning of 2007, I started this blog just kind of to share things with people, and it started to catch on, and it turned out to be something that I really loved doing. So probably around March or April, I said, I'm going to make it a goal to get out of my day job and make this my living. Right. So I think this is my calling. And so I had a full-time job, and I was also freelancing and all of that. I had 6 kids living on Guam. And I said, I don't know if I can make this work, but I'm going to try. And so I really pushed myself to do it. I sold my first ebook in November. I got a book deal by the end of the year. And by the end of that year, I had 27,000 subscribers. So yeah, it was quite a year for me. And so with the book deal in hand, an uncertain future ahead of me, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And so in January 2008, I turned in my resignation, quit my day job, and basically was on my own for the first time in my life. So I had never owned a business before that, never basically worked for myself. And so this was the first time, and it was, I actually had a moment there that reminded me of when my kids were born. So this is like a birth of a new part of my life, but what I realized, it was this mixture of joy and fear that I found in that moment of quitting, that I also had when every time my new kid would come into life, I'm holding this fragile life in my hands. I'm overjoyed, but also afraid I'm going to screw it up.
Crap, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's that holy crap kind of moment, but it's also, those are like the defining moments in your life. It's like your mixture of joy and fear. It's like I coined a word that I use now called joy fear. And when you have those two things, these really powerful emotions in one thing, it's kind of one of those defining moments of your life, and that was one of mine.
Okay. I love that story. And, I get emails from people all the time who's having their first child and are afraid to kind of take that leap into being an entrepreneur. And you had 6 children.
Well, she didn't actually give birth to them. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, like I remember my first one. I was 19 years old when she was born, almost 20, but I was crazy young. I was a kid. And here I am, like with this kid in my hand, and really had no idea if I was going to make this work or not. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to take care of a little baby. I can't even take care of myself. Can't even remember to get a condom. So anyway, that was kind of the unprepared feeling I had. And I also felt the same way when I quit my job. It was like, I don't know if I'm prepared to do this or not, but I'm going to find out. And that was kind of the exciting thing.
Oh, that sounds exciting. So if you could, Leo, what's the difference between the joy fear that moves you forward and that fear that holds you back? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for me, the fear that holds me back is just like fear that I'm going to fail, fear that, I also had a family depending on me, so I was really afraid of that. Fear that I'm going to be rejected by people. And so that's a really scary thing because when you're putting yourself out there like you are, and a lot of other people are, you're kind of putting your like heart and soul out there. And it's way more safe and comfortable to not do that. Just to like I could have stayed in my day job and just gone on paying the bills, doing something I didn't really enjoy doing, and that would have been safe. And I knew I could do that. That wasn't a problem at all. So that there was fear for many years keeping me from doing that. And so, but that's definitely not filled with joy. And I also felt like there was something lacking in being held back by that fear. I felt like I was not being the real me, the authentic me. I was not giving to the world like I really wanted to. And I wasn't making, it just wasn't the life that I wanted. So there was a feeling of safeness and being held back by fear, but also just not being satisfied. And so, yeah, with joy fear to me was like, this is the thing that I really want. And I'm fully expressing myself, living the life that I wanted, and just kind of making this kind of dream come true. So that there's just it's night and day. But I think that going from one thing to the other, that's the hard part. How do you get out of the safety zone to that place? And for me, it was small steps. And some people are just great at just plunging in off the cliff, like head first, and just like trusting things are going to work out and just risking it all. And for me, I wasn't that kind of person. So I had to, when I started my blog, that was a scary thing, but it was a small step because actually no one was reading it when I first started. So I had to, it was kind of a safe first step. Only my wife and my mom were reading it basically. And so, and that was okay. I knew they weren't going to judge me. And then maybe a few other people came in and I would keep doing it. And each step along the way, it was a little scarier. I was putting myself out there a little bit more, but I also was building up this trust with each small step that I wasn't going to, be rejected or fail or anything like that. And so that was a great thing about blogging is like you start out, no one's reading it. And as you grow, your trust also grows and your courage, I think, grows too.
Okay.
At least that was my experience.
Right. I love that explanation. I love when you said that when you were just feeling the fear, that it felt like something was lacking. Because I can definitely identify with that. When I discovered your blog when I was in corporate America, and I was like, okay, something is definitely missing. And it was that gnawing feeling of something was missing from my life, and you kind of bury it down and go on about your regular, life, and it keeps coming back up. And I think what I became more afraid of is that it wouldn't stop coming back up. That I would let 10 or 20 years pass and still have that feeling that something was missing in my life. So I think that really helped me kind of move forward. So yeah, I love that you identified that.
So let me ask you something. With this project that you're doing, this courageous thing,
right?
Who is the person in mind that you're helping?
I think I am helping the person who wants to take the lead, but is afraid to. They're afraid. Fear is kind of ruling them right now. Fear is sort of winning and keeping them from doing something that they feel like their heart is leading them to do.
So it's not necessarily like a certain type of person, like a woman or a person stuck in a corporate job, or just like basically anybody.
It is anyone, but I do see, my sort of ideal avatar is sort of a woman stuck sort of in a 9-to-5 and who wants to be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
But that goes across gender lines and every other way, right?
That experience, it really does. Yeah, that experience certainly does.
So what I found also, because I think you're probably like I am, where you're motivated to do this courageous thing because of this person who will benefit from it, just like you would have probably a couple of years ago benefit from the same kind of advice and help, Right. So when I started the blog, I was trying to change my life, but I also thought maybe someone else would care about the things that I was sharing. And it turned out a lot of people did.
Right.
And I kept getting these messages from people who tried some of the things that worked for me and it worked for them and it changed their life. And so that was a powerful thing. I'm putting just some words out on the internet hoping that it'll do something good. But some people come back and said, it changed my entire life. And when that kind of powerful thing happens, I think to me, you're like obligated to like do something. You know, you can't just sit on and sit back and not do anything. And so that the safe thing then becomes to me like not even a good place to be because you know you want to be out there, you want to be helping people and making these connections, and in return they also help me in so many ways. They gave me the courage, and that was to me an amazing gift.
Okay.
So it's not like a one-way street. So yeah, to me that blogging experience was amazing because of that. I was getting so much back from people and trying to give to them as well. So that's a really human experience that I think a lot of times we lack in our lives.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I love how on your blog the advice is it's very sort of simple, kind of what you were saying about taking the small steps and getting there gradually. Yeah, it's so simple. Like today, I was kind of doing research just to prepare for the interview, and I came across your blog post about clearing out your email and having a system of, and of course, I've come across this before and had yet to act on it. So when I saw yours, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this right now. So I went from 13,000 emails, which I know is so sad, to zero. I completely cleared it out. Yeah, I completely cleared it out today. And
that's amazing.
I feel amazing because of it. And the funny thing is, I had acted on a lot of those emails. I just hadn't cleared them out. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And sometimes it's like we know this is something that we should do, but when someone else who's done it says it, then you're like, oh yeah, I knew that, but now that he's saying I'm going to go and do it, you know?
Right.
I don't think I say anything profound and new. It's profound, but I didn't make it up, you know, and we've all heard it. But I try and make it very accessible. But you know what happens too is like I can have like the perfect post that makes it very accessible and doable and very simple, but a lot of people they'll be like, oh yeah, cool, and then they go by, and then there's someone like you who reads it and they're like, that's just the right thing that they needed at that time.
Right.
So sometimes you just need a fortunate coincidence. So I'm glad it helped. Great.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's awesome. So I know sort of maintaining a Zen lifestyle is important to you. What else do you do for self-care?
Yeah, you know, and I have to say I'm not actually a Zen Buddhist, so I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
But my life is inspired by a lot of the things that I've been learning about in Buddhism and in Zen in particular. Meditation definitely is something that I try to make a daily practice, although I'm not perfect at it. So yeah, I even if I can just do a couple minutes a day, or if I can't do it in the morning, sometimes I'll like, you know, do it as I'm walking or in the shower or something like that. It's just some kind of mindful practice of like being here in the moment and seeing what's going on with myself and being present with someone like I am trying to be with you.
Right.
So that to me that's a very, very basic practice, and it also has helped me in all kinds of other, you know, habits and other practices and writing my book, all that kind of stuff. So it's an amazing thing. Exercise is probably my number two. And I do various things from like running to weights, basically. And then the third one would be some kind of healthy diet. And I'm a vegan for ethical reasons, but I also try and just eat like lots of vegetables and healthy stuff. And other than that, reading and writing are my main ones, and then just spending some time with my kids and my wife. Yeah, those are my like basic practices, and if I can do most of those every day, I think my life is awesome. And then if some of those just kind of fade away for different reasons, I always feel like I need to come back to them. So yeah, I'm definitely not perfect with any of those habits, so I don't want anyone to get that idea, but I found that when they are in my life is better. I feel better. And I feel just, I don't know, more mindful, more alive, more like contributing to the world. Yeah, and healthier.
Awesome. Yeah, I find that it's important to pay attention to the habits across your life that have made you feel better. And that's kind of how I operate too, is I try to do them every day, but even if I don't, I know that I want to gravitate toward them because they just make me feel good. So
yeah. Yeah, and there's a big difference from when you don't feel good and when you do.
Yes.
Yeah, like even at work, like I have writing to do. If I'm just tired or just not feeling healthy, it's just hard to like focus, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
makes
for us,
everything is harder. Yeah, everything is harder when you don't feel good, which took me a little time to learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we're all still learning, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So is your day like mostly calm? Like do you have this calm sort of
Um,
peaceful life?
you know, it's pretty calm.
Mhm.
I'm low on the drama.
Okay.
I I mean, that said, I do like I do get frustrated just like anybody else. I do find stress, but I have found things that have calmed me down, and those ones that I mentioned are some of them. Just like meditation, the exercise just kind of keeps me sane,
Mhm.
um, and also a nap also helps.
Okay. Okay.
But another thing that really helps is because I think one thing that a lot of people face is frustration with
Mhm.
themselves,
Mhm.
with work, with other people in their lives, and so that can like really rise your stress levels. And so what I found is the meditation helps, but what I do is from the meditation is I bring it to the rest of my life where I'm a little more aware
Okay.
of when frustration is rising up in me. And
Mhm.
so now when the frustration is rising up, I can kind of drop in and say, okay, what's going on here, Leo?
Okay.
What Usually it's something that I'm some expectation that I have that's not being met. So like
Hmm.
the kids didn't put away their toys, right? So like that's an expectation that I have of them, and then they didn't meet it, and so now I'm frustrated. Or my wife didn't do something that I wanted her to do, or people online are not as courteous as you'd hope.
Right, right.
So like, there's all kinds of things like that where things just don't go the way you expected, or that you hoped, or that you planned. And so for me, that's kind of been my practice has been noticing when that's coming up, and
Mhm.
then just realizing it's probably an unrealistic expectation for the world to do exactly as you wanted.
Okay.
So one thing I've been doing recently is I will just try and figure out what the should sentence is that I'm saying.
Hmm.
So if my kids aren't behaving the way that I wanted to, there's a should sentence there that I'm saying and not really saying out loud, but it's there. And it's they should behave like this, right?
Okay.
And then I say there is no should. And so I just let the should go away because it's just made up. I just made that should up, right?
Right.
It's not real. And so with the real, I turn from the should to the reality. And the reality is they're kids, they're going to be messy, they're
Mhm.
not going to be robots, and they're great as they are. They're amazing. And I should just appreciate that.
Okay.
So that's kind of my practice now. And I'm not perfect at that either. But when I remember, it
Mhm.
really helps me, like, things just calm down. If I'm like frustrated with my wife, for example, I'll be like, oh, I'm expecting her to behave this way. Drop the should, just appreciate her for who she is, you
Wow.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could
so
see.
that really helps.
Okay. I could see how that's a really powerful practice because I think it's a little easier to apply that should to us. Like, I'm not going to force myself to do this or to think that I should do something. I have to eliminate that to really live a life that's more authentic to me. But to
Yeah.
apply it to other people, I think is equally as powerful because we do have all these expectations. And I can think of most of the times when I'm upset, it's because I expected someone to do something or something to happen a certain way and it didn't. And the
Yeah.
upsetness doesn't make it suddenly happen the way I thought it should happen. So,
Doesn't,
yeah.
yeah, change that.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
This makes you unhappy.
It's just right. It didn't happen and now I'm upset. Yeah.
The tough part then is like, okay, so you drop the should and you're not as upset,
Mhm.
but maybe that doesn't resolve the situation. Maybe that you need to like they still need to do something that you can't like
Okay.
make them do.
Mhm.
And so like being upset actually doesn't help that situation. I'm trying to think of a good example, but okay, let's say my one kid hit the other one, right?
Mhm.
That's not right. They shouldn't be hurting each other. But again, there's a should there. And so
Right.
I'm upset because of they shouldn't be doing that.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you just like let things go, right?
Right.
So the dropping the should helps me internally not be so upset. But because of upsetness doesn't actually help, I might go and start yelling at them for like hitting each other. And now they just think, oh, here's this person who I trust to love me is now yelling at me. And so that's not helping. That just makes them focus on my like anger instead of the thing that I'm trying to resolve. And so by letting go of the should, I can now come over and be compassionate and say, well, why did you do that? You know, maybe there's something going on. And I can understand that they also felt some frustration that, you know, just like I did. And so I can understand that. Anyway, the point is that by dropping the should and dropping my frustration, I can now be more empathetic, calmer, and help deal with the situation more appropriately rather than like being angry and like making the situation worse.
I think that's a great example because I can think of as a parent, I have two toddlers, and so hitting each other is certainly something that I can understand. And so I can think of like I'm thinking of one time recently in the past week where I've reacted to the situation but didn't even know what happened. You know what I mean? Didn't even really find out the details or what happened until like a few minutes later, and I thought, well, maybe if I had, paused the reaction and went compassionately into to find out what happened, I could have responded differently,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
But we're not perfect as parents, right?
What'd you say?
I said we're not perfect as parents, though. So
as much as I thought I would be, but turns out I'm still human. So yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, and what you said about applying it to yourself, I think some people maybe aren't as good as you are at doing that. So like, so for example, we're talking about courage, right? Some people are like, well, I'm not courageous. I haven't been doing all this amazing things that, that Kiana's doing or that Leo's doing. And so, did I say your name right? I'm sorry.
Yes, you sure did. Yeah.
It's Kiana. Okay. So they might start to feel bad about themselves. And so there's a should there that they're feeling. I should be doing all these amazing things that I'm not.
Right.
And so I think that actually can hold people back. It's just feeling bad about themselves. Well, sometimes it can be a motivator saying, oh, I need to get my butt up and like, be a lot better than I am right now. But it can also be this inhibitor like, oh, I feel so bad. And now I'm going to go and like eat some junk food or go shopping. And like that's your way of comforting these bad feelings. And so one thing you can do then is to also drop in and say, what's the should that I have about myself? And maybe that's not being helpful right now. That's making me feel worse. So I think, like you said, some people like yourself, you might be good at that, of just like being forgiving and saying that shit, dropping those expectations. But a lot of people are not. And that's actually a really tough thing for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me, that was kind of, Louise Hay was kind of my introduction to sort of this mindfulness of, changing my inner talk. And so I think that was one of the first things I did learn, and I'm still practicing. I haven't mastered it, but
sure.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think that is something that a lot of us still kind of struggle with or a lot of people struggle with is not being so hard on themselves as well. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
And I still struggle with it sometimes too. Like I'm way healthier than before, for example.
Right.
But sometimes I look down at my stomach and there's like a little bit of fat around the belly button area. I'm like, oh, that's I need to get my butt here.
Right.
And like I've done an amazing job. Like I've really turned my life around in terms of health, and I don't even think about that. I just think about that one little bit of fat on my stomach. We tend to overemphasize the negative sometimes, right?
I think that. I think that's true. Yeah, there was one day we had gone to Trader Joe's and the kids were hungry, so I got them these little dried peas. And I was talking to my mother, and I was like, I didn't cook today, and I really should have cooked today. And they're eating dried peas and this processed food. And she's like, when your kids are eating dried peas, that's not necessarily a bad day. It's not like a totally bad day. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. But in my mind, it was this huge thing like, oh my gosh, I totally dropped the ball. They're eating these. Anyway,
it shows you though. No, I was gonna say that there's what's normal for us, it changes over time, right? So like for me, my kids used to eat like Pop Tarts and all this like really bad stuff
Mhm.
every day, and we've actually risen it up.
Nice.
And yeah, like I said, like you said, sometimes I'll still be like feeling bad about little
Right.
junk food that they're eating, but that's way better than what it was
Right.
before. But since
Right.
our normal has risen
Mhm.
or changed so much,
Mhm.
like now this is normal, and any little thing is like bad, but we forget about how far we've come, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's so
So,
true. Yeah, it's so true. Okay, there are, gosh, our time is almost up. I can't believe it. It's been going so great. There are three questions that I usually ask everyone who's on the show. So I'm just going to ask you,
okay,
and these are the fun questions. So whatever pops up is what you can say. So, what
all
is
right.
your favorite book, fiction or nonfiction?
Oh man, what a great question. Right now I'm reading
Hmm.
for the first time I didn't finish it. This time I'm actually going to finish it.
Okay.
It's Don Quixote by Cervantes,
Okay.
and not a lot of people, not everyone reads it, but it's an amazing book, and I just am in love with it. Just great characters, and it'll make you laugh, and then there's like profound things, and it's like 900 some pages, so it takes a little while, but you can enjoy like every page, and there's like just such great stories in there. So
Okay.
anyway, right now I am totally in love with it, so I'll just say
Okay.
that.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I haven't read it. Of course, I've heard of it, but I'll have to put that on my list. Yeah. Okay.
Such a good, and I recommend the translation that I'm reading now. I can't remember the. Oh, it's by Edith Grossman, I think.
Okay. Cool.
It's a more recent one.
Okay.
It's in the 2000s, so it's definitely a modern translation, but she gives so much context. Anyway, she's really good.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your favorite guilty pleasure?
Oh man, uh, beer and French fries are probably the two ones.
Any specific French fries, or it doesn't matter?
Oh man, I love thick ones.
Okay.
If it's white potatoes or sweet potato fries are
I,
just like my favorite.
yeah, I love
And
sweet
then
potato fries too. Yeah.
for beer, I really like craft beers, and IPAs are my favorite. Just like bitter. I don't
Okay.
know why, but I really like strong beers.
Okay, okay, very cool. And what about the last questions? What about a habit that you've had to hardwire into yourself in order to achieve the level of success you've achieved today?
The hardwire into myself.
Yeah, something that didn't necessarily come natural that you kind of had
Uh,
to really work at.
I think all of my habits that I have now
Okay,
that help me. None of them came naturally. I struggled for like years.
okay,
Um, but the one that meditation was probably the key one, but I talked about that already. So the habit of writing every day in the morning has been
okay,
my best one because obviously I'm a blogger and I write books, so that's really been a keystone thing. But I used to just kind of say I'm going to do it someday, like I'm going to write my book someday, or I'll start blogging someday. But for me, um, having that be a given that I'm just going to do that every day has been huge. So the daily writing habit and blogging has helped because I know people are like waiting for my blog posts.
okay.
So like that's going to motivate me to get up and write. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. The daily writing, is it structured, like you working on a specific project, or is it kind of free flow?
Yeah, usually it's something where someone else is waiting for it in some way.
Right, okay,
But so like the blog is one. I also have a membership program where people expect me to write something.
okay.
And then I have like a book that I promised like an editor,
Hmm.
or right now I'm writing a bonus book for my Kickstarter project. And I know I already promised people that that's going to come out, so I need to like actually get my butt off the ground and
Right.
off the just get it up and start doing it. But so if I have a project that I want to work on, I'll usually promise it to someone,
Okay.
even just one person,
Hmm.
and or my whole audience, and that way I'll like be motivated to do it every day.
I'm totally the same way. Like I announce it. If I get an idea and I'm like, I really, really want to do it, I just go ahead and announce it for a future date, and then I'm like, oh crap. Now I really got to create it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I love that form of accountability though. I love it.
You know yourself, right? Like if you know that you're not going to do it unless you do this, then
Right.
like create that structure that's going to work, right?
Totally.
So
Totally. Okay, awesome. So you mentioned a few projects, but what specifically are you working on right now?
So I launched a Kickstarter campaign at the end of last year, and it's over now. So you can't actually go and buy the book. But I wrote a book called Zen Habits,
Okay.
and right now I'm working on getting that book out to people. And it's like a self-published book, but it's a print book. And so I'm really excited about getting that out. And then I have some bonus guides, and one is a guide to mindfulness.
Okay.
So I'm writing that as well. And I'm doing a coaching program with a small group coaching program with 13 people.
Okay.
And I'm really enjoying working with them there, like one-on-one and in a small group. But then after that's done, I don't really know what's next. So I'm going to kind of see what comes up for me.
Okay. When is your book planning to release?
The book, it's not going to be for sale. It already was sold in the Kickstarter thing. Yeah, so I might sell it again at the end of 2015.
Okay.
But for the general public. But if you didn't buy it already, you can't. But it should be in people's hands, the people who bought it in Kickstarter, next month or at the end of this month. Yeah, we had a little snafu with the cover not being how I wanted it to be.
Okay.
So we're kind of ripping all the covers off and doing it again.
Okay.
So yeah, I really wanted to be like a high quality book that's going to be in people's hands.
Okay.
I can enjoy having in their hands.
Okay. Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, gosh, our time is up. I can't believe how quickly that went by. Thank you so much for being here. Did you have any last thoughts on Zen habits or courage?
Yeah, well, I want to say for any of you who are stuck in a day job like I was, I know that idea of doing something courageous can be really scary, and it's something that you've probably been putting off for a long time. And what I want to serve as one of many examples of people who got out of that and was able to make their dreams happen. And for me, again, it was one little step at a time. And it couldn't have happened if I didn't take that first little step. So what I'm encouraging people to do is just figure out what the first step is and just keep taking one step at a time, and you'll get there. So you won't get there unless you take those steps. So take the first step and take small steps.
So true, so true. Well, thank you so much for being here, Leo.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking with you too. And thank you everyone for joining us. This has been another courageous conversation. The conversation doesn't have to end here. Head on over to crazycourage.com where you can answer our question of the week, which is, what is one habit you're going to try to implement in your own life to bring about the changes you're looking to bring about? So leave a comment below answering that question, and we will see you next week. Bye. Right, it's giveaway time. This week we are giving away a copy of Leo's ebook, 52 Changes. This book talks about everything from how to stop procrastinating to how to start a meditation practice. To enter the giveaway is super easy. Just go to crazycourage.com and leave a comment under this video answering our question of the week, which is, what is one habit you're going to implement this week to improve your life? Thank you so much for joining us. While you're at crazycourage.com, go ahead and sign up for our email list where you'll get training on how to be your most courageous self. Don't forget that Crazy Courage TV airs every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your tribe. We'll see you next week for another courageous conversation. Until then, I wish you much love, joy, and crazy, crazy courage.